wild men, flaming genitals, and a mad king sum up the story that I have for you today. Wow, kind of a lot to unpack there, huh? Before we talk about those first two things, I do have to tell you about the man overseeing it all, King Charles VI of France. Charlie and his wife, Miss Isabeau, are the main characters of our story today because they throw a ball. And spoiler alert, things get crazy. Like people getting set on fire, kind of crazy. But first, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Nikki, and I like to talk about things related to history and pretty much just random stuff on the internet. If that sounds good to you, definitely feel free to like and subscribe so you see more of my content. But without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about Charlie's beginnings, shall we? He became King of France in 1380 when he was only 11 years old. He wasn't given just the throne and told, like, okay, run with it, you're king now. Since he was so young, he had 4 uncles who served as regents over him until he came of age. And if you don't know what a regent is, like I didn't when I was researching this video, a regent is basically just an older member who is appointed as like the overseer for a younger person who's got a pretty higher up position. So like a royal who's very young in this situation. Basically, they just ruled for him until he got older. When Charles was 20, that's when he was able to take over the throne and really like claim himself as king, like big king now, not baby king. And around when he was 20, around the time that he like fully took the throne, is where he has some symptoms of psychosis, mental illness, whatever you want to call it. And this throws a wrench in things. I think his psychosis helps set the scene for why things got so out of hand. So keep this in mind for later, okay? But people started like first noticing things weren't totally legit with him when they were attacking the Duchy of Brittany, and he started attacking his own men. People were like, ooh, that's sketchy. Years of inbreeding will do that to you. After this, it got so bad that 2 of his uncles had to step back in and be regents for him again, which was kind of like, ooh, that's sus, right? And this kind of continued for the rest of his time as king. Him having periods of like being good where he could rule as the king, and then having bouts of increased symptoms where he wouldn't be able to take on his tasks as king. And then someone else, whether it be his uncles or his wife, would have to step in for him. One time he actually forgot who his wife Isabeau was. She like came to visit him in his chambers and was like, "Are you okay, honey?" And he just tells the servants like, "Oh, just give this lady whatever she wants. Like she keeps annoying me." Oh man, it's not looking good for him. And this brings us to the Bal des Ardents. I am not French, so that is definitely mispronounced. But Bal des Ardents translates to flaming ball. It's about to get good, okay? This event was a masked ball held by the royal court in 1393 for one of Isabeau's lady-in-waiting's weddings. So, a lady-in-waiting is basically an attendant or just like a helper to a queen or a princess, because I didn't know what that meant before I started researching this. They're not like just a regular maid or a servant, though. I guess the lady-in-waiting is someone who is of noble blood. So it's basically like your cousin or something would come and just like be your attendant and like help you with stuff. So it makes sense that they would like go all out and, try to make it a really big wedding for her. Anyway, Isabeau goes like extra intense with this ball because yes, it's a really joyous occasion with a wedding, but also she wants to help Charles feel better because he had just recently suffered an anxiety attack or increased of his forgetful symptoms in the past few months. So she thought that maybe having all of this like general merriment and fun would help get him out of his, symptoms, out of his forgetfulness, and then help him get back to his regular self. Fast forward to the ball, and it is a just fun vibe, okay? There's debauchery, there's tomfoolery, there's general goofiness taking place, okay? Well, in the spirit of being a goofy goober, one of Charles's friends is like, "Hey, you guys should dress up like wild men and then entertain everyone." Charles feeling the fun atmosphere, and he's like, "Okay, twist my arm, right? Sure, let's do it." But they had to like prepare for this shit, right? Like it's not like they could just slap on a wig or something and then call it good. They had to make actual costumes for it. And I'm just shook because, like, I'm wondering about the timeline. I couldn't really tell how far in advance they would have to prep for it, but they had to, like, sew on the costumes onto these folks. The costumes consisted of linen that was soaked in resin, I guess, and then dipped in flax so that they looked just generally shaggy or fuzzy and making them appear more wild, I guess. So there's 6 wild men total, right? One including the king. And they're dancing, having fun, entertaining the guests, when in walks Charles's brother Louis the First. And he's really, really drunk, okay? Well, he didn't get the memo that resin is flammable. And everyone had said, hey, no torches in the room beforehand. But since he was late to the party, he didn't get the memo. So I guess they walk in with a torch, which, like, why? So in he walks with a torch, and I think you can guess what happened next. Yeah, that's why they called this one the hottest ball around. So, 5 of the 6 wild men caught fire. Luckily, Charles was the only one who didn't. He was standing far enough away from the other performers that he didn't catch any of the like residual fire and sparks off of them. He was actually standing next to one of his female cousins who had like a big ass dress, right? And she thought really quickly on her feet and threw the train of her skirt over him so that like it would cover him and shield him from any sparks coming their way. It's really sad because out of the 6 wild men that were performing, there was only 2 survivors. So one was Charles, and then there was this other guy who he, I guess, jumped into a vat of wine so that he wouldn't catch fire. So it turned into kind of a fun night to more of a disastrous night. Let's talk about the aftermath, though, because I think there's some interesting things there. So keep in mind, around this time, Charles is like in his 20s, right? In his early 20s. The French people didn't really think to blame their king for having a not fully developed frontal lobe, for making these poor decisions, perhaps. They didn't even think to blame the fact that maybe he's had some mental illness in the recent past and that could have caused things. Not even the fact that he might have been drunk that night. No, the French people were like, aren't his uncles supposed to be responsible for him? Aren't his uncles supposed to be regent of him at this point? Fuck those guys. They were supposed to be keeping everyone safe. They put our king at risk. What the heck? Like, the mental gymnastics you have to go through is very funny to me here. But his uncles kind of played along. They were like, okay, we can't have another revolt. We can't be letting people revolt. We just gotta go with it. So they decided that their like punishment would be to do penance and just, I guess, grovel in front of the people. So they went to go do their penance at the Notre Dame Cathedral, I believe, and then they like confessed their sins and apologized, and then they walked to the church behind the king who was riding on horseback. And they were all like, it was like a little shame parade. Like, you know how they did in Game of Thrones with Cersei? It was like that, except I'm pretty sure they had their clothes on. Damn, okay, that got really intense, didn't it? I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if that was like whimsical or funny. I like started researching this and I was like, oh, haha, how funny. That's kind of like goofy. But I didn't realize everyone died. So yeah, I don't really know what the vibe of this video is. I'm like kind of confused, kind of like I think it was a little funny, but like mostly just because it's such a ridiculous way to die, you know? I hope I'm not being insensitive. That is all I have for you on the hottest medieval ball there ever was. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. But yeah, let me know what else you want me to talk about. I think I'm just going to be making goofy, goober videos until the end of time. Or until I get bored of this. Anyway. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.